Through a spokesperson, former Vice President Mike Pence announced on Wednesday, that he would not be appealing a recent court ruling saying that he has to testify in front of the federal grand jury investigating Donald Trump's attempts to overturn the 2020 election. This is a massive piece of news. It is a huge development in that particular case because Mike Pence was the guy that Donald Trump and Mark Meadows and everybody else tried to convince to overturn the election results. He was basically the tool they wanted to use to overturn the election. So he knows the conversations that happened. He was a part of them. He was the subject of them. We have to get Pence to do this. We have to get Pence to do that. And now he is going to tell that grand jury almost everything that he knows. Now, I say almost because, as you'll recall, when I talked about the initial ruling last week, the judge did say that I'm going to give you a little bit of protection with the speech or debate clause, which is what Mike Pence had challenged the subpoena based on. But the limited protection the judge is giving Pence for the speech or debate clause applies only to the events of January 6th itself, which is when Pence was acting as the presiding officer over the joint session of Congress, and Congress is the only body that gets the speech or debate protection. So only while you were overseeing that body do you have that protection, basically. But the judge said, you know what, I'll go as far as to give you everything on January 6th. You don't have to talk about any of that. Anything prior to January 6th, anything after January 6th, however, that's fair game. And you're going to answer those questions. And he will. Because here's the thing, Mike Pence is not in a position where he would need to plead the fifth. Because Mike Pence is not a target of this investigation. As far as we know, Mike Pence did everything right. That's a weird thing to say about a guy like Pence, but he has never been implicated in any of these schemes. Throughout all of the people who have talked, throughout everything that is public, throughout all of the evidence that we know exists, Mike Pence has never been accused of being a part of any of it. So he should have no reason to try to plead the fifth to avoid implicating himself. Now, granted, I wasn't there. You weren't there. Most likely you weren't there. I'm not sure who all watches this, but we don't know for certain, right, that Mike Pence didn't initially go along with it. So we're not 100% sure. But again, based on everything that's available, it seems likely that Mike Pence was not involved in any of it. So he shouldn't have to worry about implicating himself. He shouldn't have to invoke the fifth. So the question is, what changed? Right? Because Mike Pence wanted to fight this. He didn't want to testify, even though he wasn't a target. What changed this week that might make Mike Pence want to testify against Trump? I don't know. I mean, it's been a crazy week. A lot of news has happened. So maybe there was some kind of event with Donald Trump that made him weaker as a presidential candidate that might make Mike Pence more likely to testify against him, which is now going to happen. I don't know. I can't quite put my finger on it. But I think something changed this week. And it didn't change in a good way for Donald Trump, but it did change in a way that made Mike Pence realize, you know what? Maybe it's time I go and talk to the feds. Hey everyone, this is Aspen. And did you know that for the low cost of $0 per day, you can subscribe to the Fair and Balanced YouTube channel? We also encourage you to like, comment, and share. But again, click that subscribe button and help Aspen not be so grumpy.